Hello guys, welcome back to another episode here on European Confessions. There is a story that I want to share with you guys, and this message, it comes from a translation of a message that I received. The message comes from our dear sister. She is saying that right now she is 43 years of age and she is currently staying in Durban, but she is from Zim. Her story goes like this. Hello my brother, can you please post for me as anonymous? This is my story in detail. Brother Nashi, when I came here to South Africa, I started hustling a lot, and when I saw that all of my hustles, they were not taking me anywhere, that was when I met this other girl who was a South African. So this girl, what she used to do is that late at night, she would then close a small shop. She didn't have like a physical shop, which she just used to sell bananas and things like that from the street. So as for me, I had one of those old phones. You know, back in those days when these cell phones were not yet quite popular, what people used to do is that you would call using these landlines whereby you insert a SIM card, then you would charge people per minute. So I had 3 of those phones. That was like my business that I had when I came here to South Africa. But life was so tough. Then that girl told me that if I wanted to join here, then she can teach me how to make money. This girl, she always had a lot of money. After she had failed to convince me for a couple of days, then one day I asked her if she was still willing to teach me how to make money. When the evening came, we closed our shops. Then she told me that we were supposed to go to her place first. Whilst we were at her place, I saw that she was wearing some clothes, and those clothes that she was wearing, I immediately then realized that this girl, she was one of those prostitutes that sells their bodies. Then she gave me some of her clothing. Then we got into the taxi and we came back to town. So when we came back to town, we went to this other place. It was almost in the middle of town. And the place where we went to, there were a lot of lodges. That is when I saw that the place where she had taken me to, a lot of ladies were there. She then booked a room for me, and she told me that she was only going to book a room for me that night. Then the following night, I had to make my other plans. On that night, my brother, I tried working even though I had never done it before. But after I had successfully earned a little bit of money, the following day I was the one who was asking her to take me back to that place. That is how I got into prostitution. After I had gotten myself involved in this thing of prostitution, at the place where I had my little phone shop, then they came this other man. This man, he was from Ghana. He used to do that thing of traditional healer, like small boys and penis enlargement, things like that. So I started to befriend that guy, and he gave me a couple of herbs, and he told me that the herbs that he had given me, at least they will help me, because he knew that I was a prostitute. After he had been helping me, that was when I fell in love with him. I don't know how it exactly happened, but one day I found myself in bed with him. That is how me and that guy started dating. We dated for a very long time, my brother, until when it was 2014. When it was 2014, he told me that he was preparing to go back to Ghana, and he said that maybe he will never come back to South Africa because there was a project that he was doing there back in his country, and he had successfully completed that project that he was doing there in his country. When he told me that he will be going back to Ghana, he then told me that there was something that he wanted to give me. But this thing that he wanted to give me, it was only going to work after 6 months. So when he said that the thing that he wanted to give me was only going to work after 6 months, I just thought that maybe he was just trying to hustle me or to do something funny with my money. But anyway, since I loved that guy because he was very caring towards me, I then gave him my money, and it was quite a lot of money because at that time I used to charge something like 90 cents a minute, and he then charged 3,000 rands. I was supposed to give him 3,000 rands, and at that time it was a lot of money for me. So I hustled my brother, working at night, and during the day I'll be at my phone shop. When the money was okay, I then gave him the money, and he told me that I was supposed to go with him at his place that very same night, which I had given him my money. After that, me and him, we went to his place. All along, my brother, me and this guy, we used to have sexual intercourse, but we were using condoms. But on that night, he told me that he wanted to make love to me, but he didn't want to use any protection. So I agreed, since this was more like a goodbye to my lover. So on that night, we had unprotected sex. But my brother, after a month, when this guy had left, that was when I realized that I had fallen pregnant for him, and there was no way for me to contact him ever again. When I tried to contact some of his brothers that were doing that same thing of buying gold chains and things like that, they told me that the only relationship that was there between my boyfriend and them, it was because they were all from Western Africa and nothing else. They didn't know where he stayed exactly back there in Ghana. So I didn't know what to do anymore. At the same time, this pregnancy, my brother, it was growing and growing, and my tummy, it was really getting big. But what worried me a lot was that the baby was not active. The baby would never do anything. It was as if I was just carrying air in my womb. Then I decided to go to the clinic. That was when I registered my pregnancy. I was 6 months when I then went to the clinic to register my pregnancy. When I went there, the nurses told me that the baby that I was carrying was a boy, and the boy was actually okay. I didn't understand why the child that I was carrying was not playful or not doing anything, because as a woman who had given birth before, I knew that at least you should feel your baby moving in your stomach, but there was no such a thing. Then my brother, when I was 6 months pregnant, a few days after I had gone to the clinic so as to register my pregnancy, I still remember that I had been watching a movie until it was somewhere around 12 midnight. Then I went into bed. When I went into bed, I started to feel sharp labor pains. I could not scream, I could not shout. At that time, if I had just made a simple sound, the people that were my neighbors, they were going to hear that I was in pain, because I was staying in a shack, and the shack that I was staying in, it was made of plastic, so any sound could be heard next door. I tried screaming, but it was like someone had taken my voice. I could not scream, I could not even move my body. Then my body entered into labor, and I started to feel a lot of pain, my brother. I then gave birth. I gave birth to a very small black snake, and this snake, my brother, after I had given birth to that thing, it just disappeared. When I looked on the blankets, there was no blood. There was nothing. After I had given birth to that thing that eventually disappeared, I then shouted until my neighbors came into that shack where I was sleeping, and I told them everything that had happened. But those people, I saw that they were not willing to believe me. On the blankets, there was nothing. There was no fluid. You know, when a woman is about to give birth, like your water will break, there was nothing like that on the bed. All the blankets were dry. There was no blood. There was nothing. It was like I was dreaming. But this thing, it happened. The next morning, when I went to the clinic, after the nurses had tested me, then they found out that inside my womb, there was nothing. Then they told me that I was supposed to go to the provincial hospital, but I was afraid to go there to the provincial hospital, because in those days there used to be this other police big truck that used to park just close to that provincial hospital. You know, that truck that they use when there is a riot. So I didn't want to go there and get myself in trouble. So I returned back home after people had asked me what had happened, and I lied to them that the baby was okay. Then when month end came, I then decided to shift. After I had shifted from that location where I was staying, going into another location, my brother, a strange thing happened to me. One day when I was going through my bag, I found that inside my bag there were 2 bundles of money. After counting the money, it was somewhere close to 200,000 rands. That is when I moved from the place where I was staying and I came to Durban. Ever since that day, my brother, I have never struggled again in my life. But that thing that I gave birth to, I do not even know what exactly it was. Dear listeners, right there was a message that I received from our dear sister. Then I had to ask one of our admins to give us a translation.